Hello, I'll be your instructor for the next series here. Welcome to Bass 101, and we're going to learn just the basics, start from scratch, pretend you've never seen a bass before. So a lot of you may be able to skip this part, but we'll go over this together, and hopefully by the end of this whole series you'll be able to join any worship team or any kind of setup that uses just regular music charts. So we're going to just start out with the basics. This is a 4-string bass that I'm using here today. You might have a 5, they even make 6, 7, and go all the way up, but we'll stick to the 4 for now just for simplicity. But a lot of the concepts we use later on will also apply to a 5-string, etc. So just a couple things to show you here. First thing, you want to make sure your bass is in tune. In a 4-string bass, your strings are as follows. The lowest string, this one we refer to as the lowest because it's sound lowest, it's not the actual lowest. So it's that biggest string there, it's called the E. It's a low E. And so I'll go ahead and play that so you can tune your bass to my bass. I just tune using a chromatic tuner. So you can go ahead and check out and so just move the tuning key up or down until your tone matches that. And that's your low E. The next string is the A string. It corresponds to this tuning key. There's an A. Next is D. And then following that is G. Alright, once you're in tune, it's also important to realize what these notes are, because it builds the basis for everything else, for chords, for a whole band playing together. They need to know what these notes are. So we're going to start just by learning some of the basic notes, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully you have some understanding of music, but even if you don't, I'll give you a very basic overview just so you can get the right notes. First things first, you've got this low one I said was E, and then it was A, then was D, then was G. And for musical alphabet, we only go from A to G, and then there's some in-between things, but we'll go over those as needed. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do, we'll play these together. We're going to start with we're going to walk up and we're going to hit the notes and we're going to say them out loud. So go ahead and say them out loud with me, and we'll do this together. We'll walk up. It'll help us to imprint it in our brain. I'm not going to worry about those in-between notes called flats or sharps. We're just going to go through just the regular notes there one at a time. So first thing, they're called naturals. The first thing is the E, so I'm just going to play that. It's called open. When I don't use this hand at all, it's called open. I just play the E. After E comes F, so I'm just going to hit an F. And you're just going to push your finger down on the string, and you want to do it just behind the fret. If you notice, I'm not down here. You have to push a lot harder, and it makes a lot of funny noises. So I'm going to push it right behind the fret. If you put it too far on top of the fret, you actually mute it and start to play the next note. That doesn't sound good. So right behind the fret, and what you're doing is you're shortening the length of the string, which makes a higher note. Okay, after F comes G. Okay, and you'll notice I skipped one, so I'm on the 3rd fret where the dot is. Your bass should have a dot or some sort of marking there, and that is a G. Okay, after G in the musical alphabet, we go up to A. Now, because there's no H note. And again, we're going to skip and go up to an A. And A is up here at the 5th fret. There's also a dot there. So right now let's review that first string. We've got E, F, G, A. Easy. E, F, G, A. A, G, F, E. Okay? Pretty easy. Now, you'll notice the string goes a lot higher, the frets go a lot higher, but what happens at this A note, you'll remember that the second string is also an A. So you can play an A here by pressing this down, the first string down, the E string down at the 5th fret, or you could play A open on the next one. And just so you can see how I'm playing this, some people use a pick. I'm just using my fingers, so I'm careful not only to hit one string here, and I just kind of hold this one with my thumbs just so I don't hit too many strings at the same time. So there's the A there, and I also have A there open. Okay? Alright. So once I get to that A, I can jump up to the next string, and then I'm going to go through the notes there. So after A, we're going to skip one and go to the 2nd fret, and that's B. And then after that comes C. Okay, so we notice how we didn't skip one that time. So I've got A, skip one, B, C is the 3rd fret. Okay, and it may take a while to memorize this, but what I'd recommend maybe is to write it down, get a piece of paper. I'll show you how to lay that out shortly. Okay, after C, we're going to skip one and go up to D. So I'm on the 5th fret of that A string. It gives me a D note. But of course, we remember that the next string is a D. And when you notice that pattern, you start to see some patterns in the bass, it becomes a lot easier. So I get up here to a D, and that's the same as this open string, D. Okay? So a D as in 5th fret of the 2nd string is the same as open of the 3rd string. Okay, so there's that string in review was A, B is 2nd fret, C is 3rd fret, and D is 5th fret. Okay, we'll jump up to the next string. The next string was D. Okay, and D, after D comes E, so we're going to jump here for E, 2nd fret. Okay, and then the next one is F, and that's the 3rd fret. Okay, and then we'll skip one and then get up here to the 5th fret, and that gives me a G. So 5th fret is G. So there I am. I'm here. I'm open. It's G. Or excuse me, D. D goes to E. Goes to F. Okay. Goes to G. And of course, you get to the end of that one, and you're thinking, oh, on the 5th fret again. Time to hit the next string, and we'll do that now. The next string is G, because we got to that 5th fret as a G. So this must also be a G. And from the G, we'll start with the open G, okay? And then your next note, you're going to hop up to this fret here. It's A, okay? And then we're going to skip one again up to the 4th. It's the first time you use the 4th, okay? And that's a B, and then to the C. So in review, G, after G comes A, after A comes B, and after B comes C. Okay, hopefully you didn't get too lost in that process. Let me just go over all the notes real quick and you can practice them as well. Okay, hopefully you can see where I'm pressing here. Okay, so I'm going to start with my lowest one, so it's E, F, G, A, that's the 5th fret. Okay, and then I'm going to jump strings to hit A again. A, B, C, D, that's 5th fret. Then I'm going to do D, E, F, G, okay, and then I got G, A, B, C. And you'll notice some of the letters were repeated because you go back around, but it's just a higher version of that same note. So it's appropriate to play it different times in different songs, but we'll talk about that at a later time. Okay? So the main thing I want to emphasize in this lesson is just the first couple of strings, because as we build scales and we build chords, it's really what's most important is these 2 strings right here. Do you know all the notes on these 2 strings? Once you do, you can go anywhere with it. And so we're going to just start with a quick chart that is going to help you see what you need to know. And if you use this chart, you can write it down yourself and bring it with you. You can play anything. You can play with anyone. It's just a matter of getting comfortable and familiar with the patterns. So let's check out this chart. Alright, so I'm just holding the bass up here so y'all can see where this chart comes from. And what this chart is just a visual representation of the fretboard of the bass. And so you see we got the E, A, D, G. I wouldn't read it this way, I'd read it this way, going away from you. So this would be the E string, A string, the D string, and the G string. Alright, so in this fretboard you can almost slide this under here to kind of see, obviously it's not to scale, but each of those strings, all the notes are put here for us so we can kind of memorize. That's a quick way to memorize where everything is. So let's go through here and just make sure we are on the right page here. Like I told you before, there's some in-between notes here. So before I showed you the F, when we push down a 1 on that E string, and then I told you we have the G here, and we kind of skipped over one, and that's called F sharp or G flat. It's also called G flat. Let me write that in there. It'll kind of look like a G with a little B after it. So it's F sharp or G flat. And all sharp means just a little higher. Okay, it's a half step higher or a fret higher. And flat means just a little lower. Okay, so that's a good thing to memorize. Whenever I see a sharp, I see F sharp, I think, it's an F. But wait, it's sharp, so it's just a little higher than an F, so just jump up 1. Okay, or it's a G flat. Okay, it's a G, but just a little lower, G flat. Okay, so that's what those in-between things are doing. But again, we're back in the same pattern here. We got the A, and then we jump back down here. A is also here, and then we got the B, and we got the C, and then we got the D. Okay, and then with D is also here, so we got D, E, F, G, but remember G is also over here, so then we got G, A, B, C. And these notes keep going up further than that, of course, so we can also take a look at that. And that's what I want to emphasize for bass players here, is that these 2 strings are really the ones you got to worry about as far as knowing where the notes are. If you know where all the notes of E are and all the notes of A are, you almost don't really need to know these other ones. They'll sort of fit in with our patterns that I'm going to teach in later classes. So let's just make sure we've got the rest of these down. So it's F, G, A, and then they start putting the dots in here. We actually have a dot on ours and the third one. But you notice these little dots on the fretboard. They keep going on up, and they put the dots there. This is the 5th dot, so this is the 5th fret, and the 7th fret, and the 9th fret, and then they got double dots. And the double dots is kind of a special place on a guitar and a bass. When I hit double dots, that's also known as the 12th fret. And when you get to the 12th fret, it's kind of a special place because it's what's called an octave. So I can play an E down here by leaving it open. I can also play an E all the way up on double dots by playing this, and it would sound just a little higher, a higher version of the same note. So if I play an E here, it's the same note as the other. So the double dots is just a way to, it's actually the halfway point of that neck, and it cuts the notes, makes them an octave higher. So if you memorize this note here, you know where this is, and if you know where this note is, and you know where this note is, you automatically know that this is an E up here because of the octave rule. Okay? If you go up 12 frets, it's an octave. That's the octave rule. Okay? So I'd memorize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Easy. Okay? And I'd also memorize these up here. Okay? Remember, the 5th fret, it's a D for the A string. The 7th fret is an E. Then we have the 8th fret is F, and the G at the 10th fret. And then of course, octave rule, bam. Okay, and I'm going to show you one more octave rule a little bit later when we get to some scales and patterns. But if you got that down, you're golden. Don't even worry about these notes all up here. They'll sort of fall into place later. If you just get these boxed in ones with really an emphasis on these 2 strings. If you get these 2 strings down, you almost don't need to worry about those. Although I do think sometimes that those can be helpful as well. But really focus on memorizing. That's an F, that's a G, that's an A, B, C, D. There's a B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay? And of course, as a prerequisite to all of this, know these 4 string names. Okay? So, once you got that down, I'm going to post a link to this image here, just from a website that I found. But again, you can make your own. Some people may even want to put stickers. You can actually put stickers on your fretboard, and that may help you learn. So if you put a sticker on the back here, that kind of tells you the first string is a whatever, and it'll help you just memorize to start out. You could even put a little round sticker underneath on the fretboard. I might worry about the sticker gumming up the fretboard a little bit, but if it's not a fancy bass, then why not? Go for it. I won't tell anyone. But yeah, hopefully you got something out of this, and this is the end of Bass 101 for Stanley Chapel and beyond. But I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to ask me a question. My email is micahtyler@gmail.com, and just hit me up, and I'll see you at 102.